Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 11 of the Leading the Standard podcast. Today, we are talking Unlock Your Potential, the power of understanding your learning style. This week, we're going to take a closer look at those 4 learning styles: visual, auditory, reading, writing, and kinesthetic. And we'll show you how to leverage your learning style to tailor your approach to learning and working for greater success using 5 simple but essential steps. So stay tuned to start unlocking your potential today. I just wanted to start by reminding you all that Jackie is still on her well-earned, long overdue break. So once again, I have a very special guest with me today. I am joined by our Client Relations Coordinator, Christine. Christine, welcome.
Hello, how are you?
Thank you. So today's topic is all about unlocking your potential. And we're kind of extending on last week and looking at the power of understanding your learning style. Now, this is something that is obviously really relevant to us as a training organisation, but a lot of what we're going to talk about today applies in the workforce as well. So Christine and I have obviously been working through a lot of training, both with each other, and now Christine is training a new team member. But what we are going to start off with, Christine, would you mind sharing with us the email we received from Andy this week? And that will help us.
Sure will. Yeah. So his story really highlights the importance of understanding and adapting to different learning styles. And he said in his email, "For as long as I can remember, I struggled with traditional lecture-based learning. Sitting through long lectures and trying to absorb information through reading alone was always challenging for me. I often felt disengaged and found it difficult to retain what I was learning. I was beginning to think that maybe I just wasn't cut out for certain subjects. However, everything changed when I enrolled in your course. Yay! The hands-on activities, engaging video content, and interactive lessons were exactly what I needed. I quickly realized that it wasn't me that was the issue, it was the way I was being taught that was the problem. The ability to watch videos, participate in interactive simulations, and engage in practical exercises has made all the difference for me. I found myself not only understanding the material better, but actually enjoying the learning process." So that was a great email to get.
Yeah. I love it when someone actually enjoys the learning process, especially after the conversation Matt and I had last week, where there was a lot of not enjoying things. So,
yes.
So as you can see, Andy's story, you're right, because it demonstrates the importance there, I guess, of recognizing and understanding and adapting content to different learning styles and improving in individuals' educational outcome. We had a bit of a run through yesterday, and you shared a really great analogy about the elephant. Do you mind sharing that now?
Okay. Forgive me, I can't remember exactly how it went, but it's like you've got an elephant, a duck, and a fish in the classroom, and the teacher is a bird. So, of course, the duck excels because he can fly, and everyone else is stupid because they can't. So you've got to just teach them what they know, because a duck certainly isn't going to do what an elephant does. And if you put it in that class, it wouldn't do it. So you've got to adapt. Everyone learns differently, and you've just got to find the right thing that works for you.
Everyone's got different strengths, and that's certainly something we've found here as well. Pardon me, everyone. I do have the beginnings of a cold, so apologies. I will try and keep that subdued. So I guess, Christine, we probably better start with sharing those 4 primary learning styles and the 5 steps to effective learning. So I think I should jump straight into them. Angus will be very happy if I do that. So the 4 main learning styles that we're going to be talking about today are visual learners, auditory learners, reading and writing learners, and kinesthetic learners. And then we're going to look at those and deep dive into the 5 steps to effective learning and how we can apply those. And those 5 steps are identifying your learning style, customizing your learning environment, engaging actively with the materials, leveraging technology, which I'm actually really excited about, and seeking feedback and support. So we're going to break those down a little bit more in a lot of detail as we do. Okay. So, Christine, first step, identify your learning style. let's go through these, I suppose, in a little bit more detail as to exactly what they mean. So we'll start with the visual learners. Now, I fall a little bit into this category. I'm partial to a good graph, a good flow chart. We just had a look at some content there, and I was like, oh, if it's not visually appealing, I'm out. But at the same time, I don't learn very well by just watching videos. So the definition of a visual learner is somebody who learns by absorbing information best when presented in a visual format, such as diagrams, charts, and videos. So, as you said, these people will learn for things like infographics, detailed chart, YouTube clips, podcasts. They prefer visual aids during lectures and their discussions. So, yeah, as I said, Christine, I have a little bit of this trait. How about yourself?
Yeah, I definitely have a little bit of it as well. Just as an example, during COVID, everyone's stuck at home, which I'm an introvert. I was pretty happy with that. But yeah, I taught myself how to crochet using YouTube videos. My grandma tried to teach me years ago, but that didn't go well. But yeah, the videos are really helpful. You could pause them and go back if you didn't understand anything. If the person that you were watching wasn't explaining it in a way that I could understand, I could find another YouTube video. So I found that super helpful.
Yeah. And you're right there. You can pause and go back and kind of repeat and have a bit of repetition in that learning for you as well. Within our content, I suppose there's a few ways that we do this as well. We use those infographics. We use the charts, the YouTube videos. So there's quite a few different elements, I guess, for our visual learners in there, but we don't exclusively cater to a visual learner, which I think is important there as well. I'm going to move on to the next one. Have you got any other examples you'd like to add as a visual learner while we run through these quickly?
No, those are all good examples, and yet we definitely have that scattered throughout our course content.
Awesome. So the next type is auditory learners. Actually, Christine, would you like to go through what an auditory learner is for our listeners?
Yes. So the definition of an auditory learner is that they prefer to hear the information rather than reading it or seeing it visually. They thrive on lectures, podcasts, discussion. Auditory learners benefit from audio recordings and live Q&A sessions, which we happen to have here at ATOL as well. Imagine that. So yeah, we incorporate audio elements in all of our courses. There's the videos and whatnot, and then of course we can access all the extras when you enroll in our course.
Yeah. And I suppose for me, we had this conversation yesterday around the auditory learners. And I think we're kind of going to segue into that in a moment. But for me, there is, ironically, here I am with you hosting a podcast at the moment, but I can't focus just in an auditory sense. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, but yeah, if I was solely listening to a lecture, I tune out. I really do. I can't concentrate. I can't take in those keywords because as people can see, I'm quite a what's the word? What am I doing?
Pansy. I don't know
if that's
not the right word.
I want to use. I need, as you said, like there's kind of that visual element. I need to have movement and color and stuff. Yeah, all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to leave out auditory people, but I do want to skip through all of these. And I said there's a nice little segue here as well. Moving on to our reading and writing learners. Christine, I'm going to hand this one to you as well.
Okay, I'll run through the basics of it and then I'll just tell you a little story if that's okay. Yeah. So reading and writing learners, they prefer to interact with the text. So they learn best through reading and writing activities. So they like extensive reading materials set out nicely, detailed notes, and opportunities to write about what they've learned. Examples in our platform, we've got all sorts of libraries and articles. Our lead auditor courses do have a lot of reading material, and we can tell you where to go if you want to read more as well, to read more about subjects. And there are reflective writing assignments to cater to these learners. So this is me. I am a reading, writing learner. When I was in university 100 years ago, when you had to go to lectures.
Not quite that long ago.
I feel like it sometimes, Kelly. But yeah, so one of my classes was really, really involved and had a lot of information. So the lecturer would stand up front in the big university hall and talk. And so you had your textbook, but you also had what they were saying, and you'd be examined on that later. So they just talk, and back in the 80s, you couldn't record. There was nothing to record them on. So I had my own little shorthand. I wrote all my notes, super messy. And I went home that night and I rewrote them, nice titles, bullet points, because I wouldn't understand what I wrote later if I looked. But that helped to reinforce it in my mind. And then before exams, I'd write myself little exam questions and tests, leave them for a few days so I'd forget sort of what I've written, and then come back to them. So yeah, that's my way of learning.
That's actually an interesting one, and I think we'll touch on that a bit more. But that leaving that space and that time is a really interesting one there as well. But again, I have a touch of this. Everything for me is pen and paper, but I don't feel that I learn that way. I can confirm that I am absolutely the next learning style. I am a kinesthetic.
You are.
Learn by doing. So if you ask me what I just did then to troubleshoot my system failure, I've got no idea because I just do. This is the reason I included the quote from Benjamin Franklin in my newsletter. Tell me and I forget, which we've just talked about. Teach me and I might remember, but if you involve me, I will learn. So that is the perfect definition of a kinesthetic learner. We learn best through hands-on activities, physical engagement, interactive. So, and I try to kind of include this in my training for the team, because kinesthetic, I think, does in some way umbrella all of the others. I can tell you, I can show you, but then if I let you do that, I feel like that's the step for me that embeds that process or that learning or whatever it is that I'm doing. So yeah, we learn absolutely best through hands-on physical activities, touch, manipulation, interactive simulations, practical exercises. I was sharing with you, Christine, yesterday the example. I'm doing some professional development training around ASCOR requirements. And I really need to figure out how I can embed this system into the ATOL training, because I loved it. We have scenarios in our courses, which are interactive simulations and some like question answer kind of, or the audit interview is a perfect example there. But this scenario that I did with this other training provider was actually more like a conversation. They had recorded the other person and they would ask me questions and just sort of nod and yep, agree, and then prompt me things. So it was almost like I was having a conversation with an AI bot, but I wasn't, because it had been pre-recorded months ago. But for me, that kind of walked me through that process, and I was actually doing the activity with them. And I guess this is probably another good one that we do with our lead auditor skill set students and our virtual training students. While we have those workbooks, we actually do practice activities through them. We have an opening meeting, we have a closing meeting, we do audit interviews, and we have team meetings. So yeah, kinesthetics, we need to be physically engaged and interact with materials in some form or another. Can you think of any other examples there, Christine, of other ways that we engage any of those particular types? So the 4 types, again, I'm just going to recap quickly, are the visual, auditory, reading, writing, and kinesthetic learners. Have you got anything further to add to that?
No, I think we do have all of that in our courses. Again, yeah, if you're someone who does better with the interaction and the kinesthetic way of learning, then the virtual training would be a really good option for you. If you're like me and you like to work at your own pace, then yeah, the self-paced is great. So yeah, we do find it, and you know, if you're working through it and you're still finding you're not understanding something, then try it a different way, or see if you can find something else in another avenue, another way of presenting it that helps you.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point there, because I was able to identify there definitely two learning styles that apply to me, and that reading, writing is more so the writing, less than reading, is relevant to me. So you're right, adapting that style to the content, the context, the delivery method. Have you noticed so you're training with Matt at the moment, and Matt's not here today joining us today, so he can catch up later. But would you say that you're able to identify what his learning style is just based on that and how you've been working with him?
I'd say kinesthetic. He definitely has to do it rather than read about it. So it just, yeah, that's definitely his learning style, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to jump straight on there as well. Matt is very much a go-getter. He's in there.
Just get in and do it.
Yeah. Show me, let me play. Yeah, absolutely. Which kind of leads us on to great segue, Christine.
It was good.
The customizing of your learning environment. So that's step 2. Yeah, making sure that the environment and your study space and resources match your learning needs. So again, we were talking about this yesterday. Using those tools and the resources to cater to your style. So for me, I've recently been inspired by Jackie's office revamp. I don't have jackhammers and sanders going on in the background, but I've put up on my wall behind me a range of pin boards, and I have up here, I've got a calendar which is color coded for team member birthdays, my RDOs, weekends, public holidays, virtual training. So I can look at that really quickly and go, oh yeah, that date something's on and that's what's on. I have our marketing plan up there. I have my daily plan. I have our podcast schedule, my calendar, the word continual, because like many of people, continuous gets me. But I've got in front of me here the visual elements, charts, diagrams, etc., that I learn best from and retain from. Again, doing things. Christine, you were talking yesterday around setup and those sorts of things of your desks.
Yeah, I think just in the past, I have done some uni courses, distance learning and stuff, just because I like learning and I like to learn new things. And I would have a set time during the week that I would do that, whereas working full time and a part-time job and a volunteer job. So I needed to be very organized. I'm not that ambitious anymore, trust me. But yeah, it was, you know, I would make sure I had a glass of water and a cup of coffee or a tea, that everything was ready, TV's off. I liked listening to classical music because then I don't sing along to it. I found that really helped me retain. And then, yeah, so be set up and ready so you're not distracted. All the distractions are gone, because otherwise I know I am a great procrastinator and I am easily distracted. So if you know that, get yourself organized.
Yeah, and I think that, again, that's important, because there's elements here that for your different learning styles. And I suppose, as I said, this applies to work styles as well, not just in the education space, but in your workspace. And I know that if it's dead silent, I go like I cannot, again, can't concentrate. I need something. But like you, I need classical or not necessarily classical, but some sort of music or sounds in the background that I'm not going to sing along to, or that I'm not going to listen to the words to.
Yeah.
That's distracting.
It is.
Yeah. And again, I'm not an auditory learner. I find that distracting. We were talking again about notepads, having multiple notepads, highlighters, printing, highlighting, all those sorts of things. So again, when looking for your training, I suppose, training providers, whether it's ATOL or somebody else, I think it's really important for people to understand their own learning styles and what that training provider offers. Because if you're going to be like Andy and go into a training provider, whether it's at just a professional development level or whether it's at university level, if that training provider can't cater to your learning style, then unfortunately, you're going to be set up to fail.
That's right.
Or at least have a really difficult, unenjoyable time. So
but then again, too, if you know what works best for you, you can adapt a lot of things, because of course courses are written for the majority, but there's ways to adapt, and you can always reach out to support and go, I'm just not getting this. And hopefully they can help you out as well with other ways of understanding the content.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll touch on some technology stuff later on, which we got very distracted by yesterday. It was a bit of fun.
Yes, we did.
Which, some great tools out there for those people. But again, the content we've got, make sure that you firstly, you set up your workspace. You need that pen and paper if that's what you do, or if you're a typer, transcribing, all those sorts of things. But I said we'll touch on that in technology, because there's some great tools out there for those people. But moving on to topic number 3 was engage actively with the material. So for us kinesthetic learners, that's a no-brainer. We're going to do that automatically. We're going to engage. We're going to find a way to do. But I guess there's other ways as well of engaging in it. It doesn't just mean reading or putting your hand up for all of the forums. It's about making it, the material, as you just said, work for you. Make it, I suppose, customize the tools that you're given to work what's best for you. So examples for us here, Christine, if you wanted to elaborate here, we obviously have the podcast and the Q&A session at the end. Some other style or other ways that you think that as students and work people, apologies. Other ways that people can actively engage with their materials, whether it be
well, we've got our ATOL community on LinkedIn and Facebook, so you can always ask a question there. Someone's going to have the answer or have different opinions. As we know, in the ISO standards, they don't tell you what to do, but they can, give some different viewpoints. Then we've got our podcast Q&A forum. Again, you can always email and someone will help you out. So there's quite a few ways with ATOL you can engage. We've got blogs available all the time, and of course our YouTube channel is chock-a-block full of information. So that's always a really super good resource to go to.
And I think you mentioned earlier that you would, with your lectures, you would write yourself a quiz and then go away and come back, and that's a really good example there too of how you have created that dynamic content. It's not a resource that you were given. Did you find that was a really easy thing to do? Or
both my parents are teachers, so probably. I used to remember helping them mark tests when I was little, younger, because they both did primary school. But and you don't write yourself exam questions on the stuff It's the stuff I could see that I was struggling with or having a hard time. There's a lot of memorizing in the course that I did, anatomy and whatnot, and so even if you're doing one of our courses, if you find there's some knowledge quiz questions you're always getting wrong or struggling with to understand, or you've done your assessment a few times and you just seem that can be something you can go away and test yourself on a bit more. Look at go to the YouTube and see if there's anything on that clause in there, and just get a bit more information so you're comfortable with it. But sometimes that distance, and sometimes walking away from it and just let it bubble in the back of your head, go for a walk and come back, sometimes that just helps things click as well.
And I think that's important in a work context as well. We all get that little bit overwhelmed. Everybody has that task they either really don't want to do or they're not quite comfortable in, or they're trying to troubleshoot and they can't get past that point. So to walk away and to come back and try something different read a different process. So again, on that troubleshooting, Hazel and I are having some difficulties with Facebook at the moment, following last Friday's global issues. And we both have different learning styles. And we're both trying very hard to troubleshoot the processes, I suppose, or the FAQs or the guidance, I wouldn't call it that, that's available to us. We've got two different people, two different learning styles, and we're both struggling to understand and interpret that. So we've both gone away and said, look, let's see if we can get some other opinions on this, see if we can find out what's going on. But again, she's reading, she's asking questions in forums, I'm watching videos, going through old processes. So we're actively activating. It doesn't seem like it's an appropriate comment. We're both actively going out of our way and trying all of the things that we know in a learning and work context to apply it, and we can't, which so we've had to walk away and look at a different approach.
And be kind to yourself. I mean, I think that's a big one people forget. We all get frustrated with ourselves if we're having, and what's one person learns easily, it doesn't retain in another person. You know, you've got to work harder at it, but be kind. We all have our struggles, and this is a little bit of an aside, but I've got a reactive dog, so I've done a lot of dog training, worked with different trainers and whatnot. And the one thing that they're discovering when they're doing all this neurological, looking at the baseline, is that you teach them something and then you play with them and it sticks a lot better. So people are the same, you know, if you're doing something hard or learning something, then go away and do something fun. And it actually, honestly, scientifically stays in your brain better. So, you know, don't be so hard on yourself. If you're having trouble, walk away, do something you enjoy, go for a walk and come back and do it later.
Yeah.
It makes a massive difference.
Yeah. And Matic is a really good example. That he's beautiful, beautiful dog too. If he wasn't engaged in what you were doing in the first place, you're right, it's not going to stick. And if he's not motivated to do his training, to learn, to do whatever it is that you're doing, or again, perfect example is if you've got him in an environment where he's overstimulated or distracted, being a reactive dog, you lose him straight away.
Yeah, he's gone. He's gone. He's switched. Nothing gets through.
Yeah. So again, for him, he needs to be actively engaged in that learning process. So regardless of whether, like, for him, is he, what kind of is he sound reactive or is he visual?
Other dog when we're out walking. He's got dog friends if he meets them in our house, but yeah, dog reactive. And he turns into Tasmanian devil, spitting crazy.
Yeah.
People just go, oh.
He's not a little boy.
No, he's 40 kilos. But I mean, he lives with cats and chickens and they're still alive. They all get along.
But for him, there's that visual trigger, as I suppose.
Yeah.
Again, he's a visual learner.
Yeah, he is.
But I love how we can use dogs as an example of exactly how we are. Scout, the poor little thing, and he is little compared to Matic. Since Christmas, we had the big storm here. He's sound reactive, and he wasn't for the first 18 months. But now he kind of gets a bit jumpy if there's too much sound. So again, we have to cater and change that environment for him. So,
and raise the endorphins, which, you know, that helps you learn.
Have a treat
for people, dogs, everything.
Yeah. And look, I have treats here on my desk. Well, I used to have treats on my desk, and then I became quite sedentary, and that's not helpful. But engaging that. So I said, making the training environment, which was the previous topic, work for you, making those tools work for you. You said, be right. If that environment or that resource isn't working for you, make it work for you, or find ways to make it work for you, which is a great segue into number 4, leveraging technology. So I suppose the obvious one there is what we offer, online learning, all of the different types, the podcasts, the videos, the interactive tests, I suppose, knowledge checks all the way through it, those practice quizzes, the what else have we got in there? Oh my gosh, the scenarios.
Yeah, scenarios, examples.
The ILT sessions.
Yeah.
We Q&A sessions, ATOL communities. You can see we've kind of got every base covered there. But yesterday, we got into a little bit of a wormhole here. And thankfully, we pulled ourselves before we became Alice and we disappeared completely.
Yeah, like we do. Like we do.
I think we got to the door and that was about, well, hang on, if we open this.
Back away.
Exactly. But we found through the website Speechify, which we can add in here. Now, these tools that we looked at were specifically for people with dyslexia, which obviously is a challenge in its own way. However, there were so many plugins there that we went, oh, that would help me as a learner. Oh, that would help me as a learner. So these are extensions we can add on to there. Text to voice. So if you've got, again, we do our best. We use accessible platforms. So we try to make sure that our content is readable by a screen reader for those with visual impairment. But at the same time, if somebody is not a reader, then tools like this can use that with their PDF exports, or they can just listen to it, I suppose.
We discovered you could have Snoop Dogg read to you.
Yeah.
If that helps you.
Yeah. Can you imagine Snoop Dogg giving you a lecture on quality management systems? I think we need to test that one out and give it.
I think we might. Maybe a Friday afternoon task.
Snoop Dogg, Gwyneth Paltrow, and somebody else, and we thought Snoop Dogg was the option there. Yes, so that was through Speechify. Voice to text, text to voice. Reading and writing on Google Chrome. There were things that would black out, so kind of help you focus if there's a lot of text. I remember in primary school there was a boy in our class, and I don't remember his name, I just remember this, and he used to have a ruler, and he used to have the ruler under the line that he was reading in the workbook, and then that ruler would move down and down and down to help him focus. That they've made that into a digital tool, which I thought, which was great. Cool. And similar, we use in our processes in OneNote, when we take screenshots, sometimes there's a lot of information on that screenshot, so we can black out all of the stuff and just kind of focus on that one core part. I suppose it's similar to that. But yeah, things like changing the layout. So there again, if you've got quite condensed text, there's apps in there that will reformat that text on screen for you. There are so many tools for all of the different people.
I was going to circle back to something you said earlier, where that video you were watching, where it was like someone was listening, and then you said, but it wasn't AI. And that gave me an idea. I thought, maybe you can use AI or ChatGPT and go, I need to practice this. Do you want to, can you be an audit interviewee? Give it the parameters. And we're not saying use ChatGPT for all your stuff, but that just triggered. I thought that's a great idea. Maybe there's some AI that you can use to create an interview or a closing meeting or something to work with you.
Practice.
That'd be quite fun too.
Yeah. And again, we were talking about this yesterday, writing prompts. ChatGPT is a perfect example of a writing learner. Because if the prompt you put in there isn't exactly what you want in it will take you literally. So you need to make sure that you're communicating clearly exactly what you are wanting that outcome to be. And look, I'm not going to lie, as a trainer, I use that often to see if there's different ways to word things, or test an instruction and see what it does to make sure that I'm communicating clearly. Something that works for me isn't going to work for everybody else. So I want to make sure that other people can understand that. Another AI tool, ATOL, Sidekick. Now,
Yes.
yeah, it doesn't,
Yes.
yes, it won't do what Christine just said, but again, it can help you with testing your knowledge, or if you're struggling, it will give you the guidance as to what to do, where to look, give you the information there. Again, within context, that's obviously based purely on our courses, but technology is perfect for adapting content to your own learning style.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many options available these days that just weren't around 10 years ago even.
Yeah, 5 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
So everybody thought that virtual reality was going to be our reality, and I feel like virtual reality is so 1980s Hollywood now.
Yeah.
It's just not where we're going. Which I'm just really conscious of time today. We'd like to
Yeah.
talk. The next topic, which kind of again segues from what you were saying there around asking ChatGPT to help you. Topic 5, seek feedback and support. So again, regularly communicating with your instructors. So Christine, we have you're probably the best person to answer this, actually, being in the customer support team. While Jackie and I write and deliver the content, you're the one there picking up and answering the questions around people who have some struggles in that. So have you got some ideas or examples of different ways that people use that here? And again, please feel free to use Matt as an example, training him.
I think, if number one, if I matter, I can't answer it, we will go to Jackie and Kelly for answers. But quite often, while we can't give you the answer, we will give you hints where to look, let you know where you've gone wrong. Maybe you're just looking at it just from the wrong angle. There are heaps of support through knowledge-based articles, the Sidekick, ATOL Sidekick. That is a great tool. If you're struggling with something, you can just like to do with the clauses or something, you put it in there and that really helps. But you can have support networks and other students in one of our communities. If you're struggling with something, someone else is for sure. So yeah, and feedback, always look for feedback. Matt and I, he's been with us for a few weeks now, and just go like, is the way I'm training you working for you, or is there anything that you didn't understand about that? And so just constantly feedback to yourself too.
Yeah, which is where I was going to go with the when students come to you and say, I can't answer this question, you give them the response, but then you pass on that feedback. It's not, and I don't think people are really aware that we would like to think that people are aware how much we value that, but I don't think people understand the true value of them seeking that support. Yes, it helps you a lot, but it also helps other people to help other people. We had an example a few years ago. I don't want to say her name. If she's listening, she will potentially know who she is. But I had a student who, at the end of her course, she came to me and said, look, and this was after I'd already had 2 ILT sessions with her. So I knew her, and she it wasn't until afterwards that she felt comfortable to say to me, look, I really, really struggled with that course. I didn't understand it. I couldn't find this resource. I didn't understand this. And look, we communicate all of these resources that are available, but she had ADHD, and she found as you said before, we cater to the majority and try to fit in and support the minority as much as possible. But she really struggled with connecting the content to where her resources were. Even though we've got things broken down for her, because it wasn't spelled out up front, everything and how it would all, she really struggled. But sadly, she didn't tell us until the end. If she had spoken up at the beginning, and we do this with our virtual training, we have a bit of a disclaimer at the beginning. This is going to be fast-paced, intensive, but we don't want you to be left behind. If you don't understand a concept, there's a chat function. We will go into breakout rooms with you. We offer a one-on-one afterwards. If she had been upfront at the beginning and said, look, I'm struggling with this. This is my personal situation. I'm going to need some extra support, which is not an easy thing for a lot of people to say. We could have done that for her. We could have helped her work through that much better. She passed with flying colours, I say, but she did admit she struggled. Her giving us that feedback resulted in us making some very minor changes to the way that we deliver the content and lay out our modules. And we saw a little bit of a change in, like, just a drop in some of the support questions that we were receiving, which her, hey, I over here, help, feedback, helped so many more people.
Exactly.
We weren't catering for that one particular learning style. So yeah, again, perfect feedback. Checking in, joining those forums, all those sorts of things. But again, encouraging our students to reach out, and as Jackie and I talked about a couple of weeks ago, offering that feedback and actively asking for it, actively engaging in the learning community. It doesn't always need to be directly. You can go through us and sort of like support anonymously. That's the great thing about Facebook, I guess, or in the context of an ATOL community, is that if you're not comfortable asking that question, you can ask it anonymously.
Correct.
So yeah, unfortunately, LinkedIn doesn't offer that. But again, you can still message one of us and we'll share it with the community for you. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other things that you find from that feedback perspective, particularly in customer service and support, Christine, that
no, just, don't be afraid to reach out. You're not being a pain or anything. That's what we're here for. That's our job, and we want you to succeed. Hopefully any learning institution is like that. And we're pretty honest. If I don't know the answer, I'll get Kelly or Jackie to, if I can't figure out. And if you're not understanding what I'm saying, just say, I still don't get what you're saying, and I'll try and deliver that back to you in a different way. We use videos, Vimeos, and all screenshots and all sorts of things. So what I think makes sense might not make sense to you. It's happened before. It's going to happen again. So just ask, and I'll find a different way to explain it. And if I still can't do that, I'll bring in Kelly or Jackie, and we've all got different ways of helping. So don't be afraid. We're not going to think you're anything. It's just it's good to ask it for help. Why not? You paid for it. You want to learn it. You want to succeed. So we want you to succeed as well.
Which actually makes me think of an example this week. Obviously, Jackie being away, I'm doing some more marking, and I'm picking up. Normally, when Jackie and I do marking, we mark the same student from start to finish. But with her being away, I've taken over some of her students. If they've had a resubmission, I'm picking up the subsequent one. We had a student this week. We actually had two students this week that this story applies to, where Jackie had given them feedback. Her first submission, or her first round of feedback, was written feedback. This question, you've written this. Remember that this does not apply. You need to be considering this. That was her feedback for the first round. That student resubmitted and still had not addressed the criteria. So when Jackie gave them the second round, she did a video. My feedback from the first video was there, in the first submission was this. Let me show you on a screen recording exactly what I mean. This here is incorrect. This is what we're asking, but this does not apply. And she'd highlight all of that. They've taken that away, watched it, and they still haven't understood it. I've picked up the third one, watched Jackie's video, gone, okay, I know exactly what she means. They didn't get it the first time in writing. They didn't get it the second time, video, audio. Let me try it again. Exactly the same feedback. But I gave some additional things. So this is where it is in your content. This is what you've given. This is what the content says, or the manual says. Can you see how this differs from this? I need you to change this to this, or use these words or this layout. So I'd taken Jackie's that one step further. Again, we've then addressed, well, that person was not a reading, writing learner because they didn't get the feedback the first time. They not necessarily an audible learner, I guess, because the second one was more talking than actual. Hopefully, and it's very, very rare that a student would get to a third submission. Hopefully for these students, they can kind of go, oh, okay, now I get it because I've applied some different elements of the learning style. So yeah, fingers crossed for those students. But if they don't, we're here.
That's right. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, Christine, we are I've got a million more stories coming to mind, so I need to restrain myself. I am going to, did you have anything further to add about?
No, I think we've covered everything pretty well.
Brilliant, excellent. So I will wrap up today's discussion element. So I'm just going to recap really quickly. Those 5 points that we talked about were, number 1, identifying your learning style. So are you kinesthetic, kinesthetic, visual, auditory, or reading, writing learner? Visual, auditory, reading, writing, kinesthetic. I always get those combo ones mixed up. Identify your learning style. Understanding that style is that first step to tailoring your experience. Number 2, customizing your learning environment. Make sure that you are your environment is not conflicting with that learning/working style. So if you're not an auditory learner, or if you are, making sure that you've got the pens, paper, distraction-free environment relevant to your learning and working style. Number 3, engaging actively with that experience, so participating in those forums, making those resources work for you, adapting them to suit your needs. 4, leveraging technology, using technology to help you actively engage with that material. So as you said, there's all of those different apps and tools that are available to you now to adjust that learning content. And the 5th one there, seek feedback and support. So regularly communicating with your instructors, your peers, your manager, whoever's training you in whichever environment, giving and getting constructive feedback and support along the way. So those 5 steps will certainly help you enhance your learning experience and tailor that to your learning style and your needs to achieve any of those better outcomes. Christine, anything you wanted to add on that before I open the floor to our community?
I just wanted to say it's all about finding what works for you, best for you, and being proactive. If you know what works, then stick with it. And they're not just applicable to studying, but their workplace and any other personal development, learning to crochet, whatever you want to learn.
Learning to crochet, walking the dog.
Walking the dog.
Yeah, all those sorts of things. Yeah, troubleshooting a problem. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So with that said, I am going to open the floor to our ATOL community members. So for those of you joining us live in the Zoom room, you are welcome to use the chat function. We have that visible there as well. If you are watching live on Facebook in our ATOL community or through LinkedIn, please feel free to leave your comments in the comments and Melissa will share those with us. So Christine, have you received any questions along the way? So far?
I have. I've got one great question here from Sylvia. She's asking, how can I determine my learning style if I'm not sure which category I fall into?
And that's actually something that I have come across before. So conveniently, as part of our newsletter last week, leave the standard edition 58, and it'll also on the resources tab of the ATOL website. There is a quiz there about how to discover your own learning style. So it will go through asking a series of questions, and then at the end you tally those up and it will determine what type of learning style they are. So that's, I suppose, a formal way you can do it. But the other thing, I suppose, we've just talked through those different styles. So if you find that you do learn better by writing things, then it would be safe to assume you're a writer. If you need to engage, interact, be a little bit more animated. Animated is the word I was looking for before, not handsy. Animated. If you need that more animated environment, you might be more audible. If you need those colors, those charts, if you are like Christine, reading, writing, taking notes. We did talk about before, again, the tools, and taking those, using those to your advantage. And sorry, I'm skipping back again. We talked yesterday about how, while I'm not a visual, I'm not a reading, writing learner, there's still an element of that in what we do, like printing out the resources and highlighting those keywords. That was an interesting discussion about highlighting keywords. Christine, how much highlighting did you do?
In some of my uni textbooks, I'd look down and go, I've just highlighted the whole page. That's probably not helpful.
It's just beautiful. It looks pretty.
Yeah.
But you're right. For me, that's probably something I would do. I would just highlight, this is important. Yeah. This is important. Yeah. It's actually not all important. Well, it is all important. That's why it's in the textbook. But what are the key elements? So again, printing those resources, making them work for you. Sorry, I said, just digressed off that question. Determining your own learning style. Look, if you're not sure which category you fall in, start taking, either take that quiz or start taking note of the different things that you're doing, I suppose, even in your workplace. And if you're finding that you pick up something really well, or you're really engaged in something, think about how that content or that process or anything has been delivered to you, or how you have reacted to that information. So if you found that, okay, I heard it, got it, it's stuck, probably an auditory learner. Hold up, I need to take notes, and then I'll come back later and read that again, probably a reading, writing learner. You need to engage, interact, then look, chances are that you're also a kinesthetic learner there as well. Or if you just got to watch, give that to me in a video. So it's not really difficult to determine that learning style if you're aware, I suppose, of your environment and your own personal activities. Find what works, what doesn't work, I suppose, is a really good one. I've just received another chat. Give me one moment. Awesome. Not a problem. Anything you wanted to add to that, Christine?
I think we've covered a lot of material today. Hopefully we've been helpful to someone.
Hopefully that's our goal in life, to help people. Awesome. Well, on that note then, I am going to wrap things up today. Thank you everyone for joining us for today's episode of Lead the Standard. A huge thank you, Christine, for joining me today. Now, Jackie is out for one more week, so I believe you'll be joining me again next week as we talk.
I think you wrote me into that one, didn't you, yesterday?
Excellent. And I think you're going to be great for that too, because we are going to be talking about auditor personal behaviours and how we all tend to kind of judge a book by their cover. But I think you having your certification company or certification body, background is going to give a really different perspective, particularly around booking audits and the types of people and that succeed and that don't. But I do want to have a disclaimer there that while we're talking about auditor personal behaviours, this isn't just about auditing. This is going to be a conversation about how we communicate and interact with people in everyday life. So
professionalism.
And common courtesy. I want to say, look, I think it's going to be a really good discussion, and I'm really keen to hear some other people's insights and thoughts. So thank you once again, Christine, for joining me today. I'm really looking forward to that one next week. So everybody be sure to join in. We will see you then. Thanks. Thanks for joining us once again as we lead the standard. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast for more episodes just like this. And don't forget to leave a review if you found today's episode informative and inspiring. If you're already an ATOL student, remember participating in live Q&A sessions just like this is one of the exclusive perks of your enrolment. And if you're not already a student, join us at our website www.auditortrainingonline.com to learn more about our courses and how you can start making a difference in your career in ISO management system standards. So join us again next week as we not just meet the standards, but we lead them.